surprising, because UN Special Rapporteur Manfred Nowak estimated in 2005 that Falun Gong made up half of China's labor camp population, and that torture was widespread. Hardly surprising, yet impossible to believe, and the mainstream media were reluctant to report it. But a couple months later, the story was back in the news with the publication of the Bloody Harvest reports.
Our bottom line conclusion after considering everything as best we could was that the allegations are true. We believe them to be true, that this harvesting is indeed happening. But that conclusion comes not from any one of these different 18 categories of evidence that we looked at, but by assessing everything altogether. Altogether, they paint a full picture.
Written by a human rights lawyer, David Matas, and a retired Canadian politician, David Kilgour. The original report listed 18 areas of evidence. It was later revised to include a total of 33 areas of evidence. At the center of it all was a number.
We estimate that in the period between 2000 and 2005, there are 41,500 transplants which have no other explained source.
The number was based on one simple calculation: that the number of organ transplants in China seemed to have multiplied after the persecution of Falun Gong began, with no new source of organs. But there was a problem. The numbers were squishy. China doesn't publish the total number of executions or transplants. For executions, Kilgour and Matas used Amnesty's figures of confirmed executions, but other estimates range from 5 to 12,000 executions a year, or 7 to 18 times the rest of the world combined in 2008. For the total number of transplants, Kilgour and Matas quoted Shi Bingyi, the executive deputy director of the organ transplant branch of the Chinese Academy of Medical Sciences. In 2006, the Jiankang or Health Daily website quoted Shi as saying that around 90,000 transplants had been performed in China as of 2005. But in the documentary Re-Examining the Davids Report, produced by Hong Kong-based Phoenix TV, Shi denied making such claims.
我没有说过这样的话，为什么？因为我头脑里就没有这样的数字，我没有过非常详细的调查哪一个时间段是多少例，我没有这样的数字，所以我也不可能说。
Shi's quote can still be found in an archived version of the Jiankang or Health Daily website. In their 2007 response to a United Nations inquiry into organ harvesting, the Chinese government stated, "To date, no Chinese authority has compiled official statistics on organ transplants between the years 2000 and 2005, and that, given the above situation, the so-called discrepancy referred to in the communication that we have received does not make sense." But this report, published by the World Health Organization, tells a different story. The report is a summary of a meeting of government authorities from different Asia-Pacific nations on organ transplantation. The meeting was chaired by the Chinese Vice Minister of Health, Dr. Huang Jiafu. And China's country presentation was delivered by a Deputy Director General for the Chinese Ministry of Health, Dr. Meng Xun. In his presentation, Dr. Meng gives detailed statistics on the total number of transplants performed in China, post-operative survival rates, and the number of hospitals performing transplants. This is a direct contradiction of China's 2007 claim that no Chinese authority has compiled official statistics on organ transplants.
I mean, it was a blatant misrepresentation of what they themselves were doing, and as I said, could only be credible to somebody who was not paying any attention to the issue whatsoever and used the Chinese response as their sole source of information.
We decided to call the Chinese Ministry of Health in Beijing to see if they would tell us the number of transplants. And to help, we brought in someone with experience dealing with Chinese officials, Dr. Wenyi Wang. Posing as an editor of a Chinese medical journal, she asks officials from China's Ministry of Health to give her the total number of transplants.
United States and Europe, this number is publishable. 道的话，那别人谁能知道啊？那张万不是说你们？
不是说我不知道，我说我不知道别的地方有没有。你刚才说不知道到别的地方找吗？我不知道别的地方哪里有没有。其实我们这个地方呢，要想要的话，因为等我们领导回来，才能给你答复。
Well, what you're dealing with a police state that lies. They simply lie and they conceal. And there are a lot of credulous outsiders who will accept that.
But without official statistics on organ transplants, it's difficult to verify one of the key findings of the Kilgore-Matus report. That the source of 41,500 transplants for the 6-year period from 2000 to 2005 is unexplained. But the Chinese government recently endorsed the data of the Hong Kong-based China Liver Transplant Registry. According to the registry's 2009 report, from 1999 to 2005, the number of liver transplants in China increased by 40 times, and 98% of them were cadaveric. The registry's report doesn't include data on other types of transplants. But if we consider that according to Dr. Meng's presentation, liver transplants accounted for about 10% of China's total transplant volume as of 2005. China's total transplant volume as of 2009 would be around 140,000. And considering the increase in transplant volume over the same period, the yearly totals after 2003 would be significantly greater than commonly held estimates of China's execution rate. So either China's execution rate must be significantly higher than previously thought, or Chinese hospitals must have found an alternative source. The numbers are one side of the story. Another side is the words and images of Chinese refugees. Ethan Gutman interviewed 50 Falun Gong refugees who had been through China's penal system. But he says what stood out most weren't the graphic descriptions of torture, but the occasional mention of a blood test.
They mentioned a physical exam. And one of them mentioned a physical exam that was very... She mentioned that she was going to go on with her story. She wanted to talk about torture. She wanted to talk about her faith. But she started talking about this exam a little bit, and I asked her, well, what did they look at? And she said they looked at my eyes, among other things. They had shined a light in her eye, clearly, examining the health of the cornea. But they didn't do this. There was no peripheral vision test. There was no no light, nothing. No sense of actually checking brain function.